We've got professional mixed martial arts fighter Julien Leblanc. How are you doing, Julien?
Hey, I'm very, very good. Thanks. And how about you?
Not too bad, man. It's been many years since I've spoken with you, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation because I have a ton of questions to ask, as I was saying just before we started. First things first, I'd like to know, like, your last fight was nearly 2 years ago. It was back on April 16th, 2021 at Legacy Fighting Alliance 104, which was available on UFC Fight Pass, of course. What have you been up to since? More specifically, what have you been focusing on in terms of your, training and your overall development as a professional mixed martial artist?
Okay, so my last fight was April 21st for 2021. So it's almost 2 years now. In 2 weeks, it's going to be 2 years. Unfortunately, like, I went into this fight, I had a torn ligament in my wrist. It was really snapped in half.
Wow.
I did this while training before the fight. But like, my last fight. So long story short, we'll get into it more deeply. But so when I did my last fight at LFA, it was actually almost 3 years that I didn't fight. So because I fought in September 2018.
Right.
Then we had all the TKO saga that we can get into it a little bit if you want. So a lot of shows were canceled. I had a lot of opponents that pulled out. I actually had, I think, 7 canceled fights in 2 years. And it wasn't because of me. It was all because of the opponents or TKO going bankrupt and all that thing. Then COVID happened. So that was part of the 2 years and a half off too. And that's when I decided to go to Florida in January 2021. And I knew that my only chance of fighting again was to be in the US because the borders were closed and everything. And as we know, as we knew, like in COVID time, every promotion were closed in Canada for a while. So I went to the US and I got an opportunity. My manager actually got me an opportunity with LFA. LFA is a Legacy Fighting Alliance, is one of the biggest promotion in the US under the UFC. They're actually really like partner with UFC, So if you look at a lot of the guys that are in the UFC or even Bellator right now, they almost, not everyone, but a bunch of them fought for LFA, won titles in LFA. Like, LFA is a legit promotion in the US. So LFA had this guy, Joel Bowman, was only 3-1, but he was a major university, like a high wrestler. He was a really good wrestler in the University of Minnesota. And University of Minnesota, they have a very good wrestling program. I think about one of my teammates from Killcliff FC in Florida, Logan Storley. He was the interim Bellator welterweight champion, and he's from the same program as Joel Bowman. And they were actually like in the same program at the same time, had the Minnesota University. So LFA approached my manager. They're like, we have this guy, Joel Bowman. He's in the same situation as Julien because like we cannot find an opponent for him. They all pull out and like he needs to fight, blah, blah. So I said, hey, man, I won't say no to nobody. I don't care. Let's do it, So I fought him, but I was injured. But to be honest, while I was fighting, I didn't feel out all the injury, I felt it through camp, but I was getting cortisone shots in my wrist to help. But before the fight, I knew that I was going to need surgery after, and it was a big surgery. So that being said, did my fight. It didn't go as planned. I lost a decision. I basically lost because of me. We'll get into it too if you want, but sure. Mentally, I was a little bit shy, if I can say. I was gun shy a little bit. So I took some bad decision, lost this fight, and then I came back to Canada and I knew that I had needed surgery. So I'm lucky because it was in COVID time, and the surgery, if you wanted to have surgery like in the public healthcare, it was really long. Right. And I'm really lucky and grateful because she's a doctor, a surgeon, a girl. She was like, okay, I'm gonna make the surgery for Julien. Because like I know MMA, I know who he is, and he wants to fight again, so let's do it. So it was about to cost me 10 grand, but got it for free. So I'm very, very grateful for this.
Wow.
The surgery happened the September 20 or 21, 2021. So it's 1 year and a half today that I had my surgery. The surgery was really, really, the rehab of the surgery was really longer than I expected. I'm going to show you on camera. I don't care. Like, even if the opponents I'm going to fight, they think that it's going to change. Everything is good now, but look. So you see this hand? Look, this hand. So I have no more flexibility at all. You see?
Wow.
So this is the max I can go. But
Wow.
that being said, I've managed to find new ways of, wrestling, training, everything. I can do my submissions. Everything is good now. I can punch 100%. Every punch is all good. I just make sure to take my hand good, let's say when I do sparring or whatever. But I've managed to work with it, But that's what I was doing for the last almost 2 years. I was getting my rehab from a surgery.
Mhm.
And it's been maybe like 6 to 8 months that I'm back 100%, really training hard, sparring hard. I've spent all January in Florida at Kill Cliff FC training hard with the guys. I just went last week too for a solid week of training, and I'm planning on probably going back a little bit before my fight, maybe another week or two. But that being said, yeah, I was basically really like getting back in shape from surgery, doing my rehab, and it was a little bit longer than expected. If I think outside of the combat thing, I was also teaching a lot in high schools. As we know, in COVID, especially like since COVID, they are missing a lot of teachers in high schools.
Mhm.
And like I don't have my degree in teacher in university, but I still have like a bachelor. Is it
Yeah,
how you call it?
a bachelor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
It's in commerce, right? In commerce?
Yeah, it's in criminology.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that being said, like my job at the same time as a fighter, my job since the past 7 years, I'm a suppleant teacher in high schools.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
when a teacher calls sick, I go in and I replace. It pays very good, to be honest. So I'm really happy with it, and I can say no anytime I want without losing my job. I can work, like, if I have a fight, I can work only 2 days a week, or if I don't have a fight, I can basically work 5 days a week. So I can like manage my time very good with training on that point. That being said, they were missing a lot of teachers, so they asked me like to do some small contracts, teaching contracts. So after my surgery, in I think it was in October, yeah, 1 month after my surgery in October 2021, I was a teacher, a science teacher for high school grade 1. I had 5 groups in grade 1 and 2 groups in grade 2. So it was a good challenge because, I'm like, to be honest, science, like, I'm not the best guy in science, but, it was a good challenge and it was fun. The kids were super cool. And after that, I went back to Florida 2 months last year. So in January, like actually end of December until end of February 2022. So I was in Florida training, helping Marc-André Barrio for his fight because I was cornering him at the time. But it was a little bit too early to be back on the mats in Florida with all those killers. With my wrist, it was a little bit too early. So I came back, did some more teaching till the end of the year. Then this year, I did from September to December. I was a history teacher in grade 3, high school grade 3. Okay. So it was very, very cool. History is more of my it's more of my thing, I was really good in high school, and I always took some course at the university in history. I really like history. So that was my thing. So I did this until December, and then I was like, hey man, it's time to fight again. I'm ready. I feel good. So it's time to put in some more work. So I've spent December training hard here with my coaches, Sifu Patrick and Martin Patenaude. I've trained hard with those guys. Like I said, I went in January to Florida for 5 weeks. It was very, very cool, very good, very amazing training, like always. Then I came back, trained hard with Sifu Pat and Sibak once again. And last week I was in Florida. So I'm ready. Like, I've been looking for a fight for the, let's say, since December, we knew that I was gonna fight like at the beginning of 2023.
Right.
Unfortunately, we didn't find anything for the beginning of 2023, but now I've been offered with this great opportunity to be a main event, or like I'm still waiting if I'm main event or core main event, but I'm probably sure that I'll be main event. But anyway, in my hometown, May 26th at Slush Puppy Center. It's a new arena, so it's going to be my more lucrative fight. It's going to be like very good for me, money wise, sponsor wise, and everything. So I'm really, really happy with the opportunity. I've been patient, and this opportunity presented itself. So I'm really, really grateful for it. And this is where I'm going right now. So fighting May 26th for my comeback fight.
Man, thank you for updating us on all that. You really got into the details, and I was just writing some notes down because I have some follow-ups to ask you in addition to some questions that I previously drafted. So a lot has clearly happened over the last couple of years. And first of all, it's incredible that you're a high school teacher. I can only imagine how cool it must be to have a teacher, supply teacher, whatever, who's a professional mixed martial arts fighter. I in high school, if I had that, I think my mind would have exploded because, talk about like, the opportunity to talk to a professional mixed martial arts fighter, and also, for kids in high school who are maybe interested in martial arts, it's like the perfect go-to to ask any question in regards to combat sports and professional sports and so on. So what an awesome opportunity for all. You're probably the most popular teacher, I would imagine, because of that. But you mentioned patient, right? And you have been clearly patient because you mentioned that back in 2018, after your last fight in 2018, you had 7 fights drop out because your opponent, 7 or 8, correct me if I'm wrong, drop out and pull out of the fights. Can you lead us through what that experience? Like, obviously, it sucks, right, to have 7 people pull out of the fight when you're training, when you're preparing, and so on. And during that time period, what was going through your mind in terms of like, your commitment to the sport of MMA when you have so many people leaving the sport? If you can kind of talk to us about that, because obviously you're still in it and a lot has happened. There was the COVID chapter, and I am also curious to know about the COVID story, how you decided to leave Canada, which, as you were telling me, I was like, wow, this is an incredible story. You decided to leave the country and to move to the US to train just as the borders were closing, which is a major life decision, is it not? It's a major career decision, but a major life decision. Lead us through your thought process with that, because I'm curious to know what was going on in your mind during that time. And more importantly, when you look back at your decision to do that, what emotions come up? What do you think about that time now? Was it a good decision? Clearly it was, I would imagine, as a fan, but lead us through from your perspective, please.
Yeah, so let's start with the dropouts. So seven dropouts, opponents pulling out, shows that were canceled. So actually there was 3 shows, so 4 opponents dropped out and 3 shows were canceled. And the last one was just like TKO canceled it, then he ran away with the cash and with the money, and that's it. We never heard of him again. So that being said, when you look at it, like I never gave up in my mind, and I was always like frustrated for sure. But the most frustrating part is that you don't do this for the people, you do this for you. But at the same time, MMA is a game, like you get sponsors, you have to sell tickets, you have to promote yourself. You're like a self-business,
Right.
So, how people are, like they don't go into details. Like they see this, another fight canceled. Oh, this guy is just so they beginning thinking it's you that always say you're going to fight. And then it's always end up canceling. So I was like, fuck. Sorry for my language, but I was like, shit, like, why is it happening to me? Because even sponsors, then they don't want to sponsor you again. Or let's say they sponsor you, but your fight drops out. So they're like, okay, well, your next fight, I already gave you the money. So, but then you have to do another camp, but you don't get more sponsors, you know, and you don't get the cage experience. And that's the worst, because what I've learned from the years is that I would have like probably like 4 or 5 more fights if you were realistic, you know, and cage experience, you cannot buy that. It's all good in the gym. It's all fun in the gym, but there's nothing like a real fight. So I lost a lot of time, like in this, you know, in those cancellation, I lost a lot of time that was important time. For sure, you can say, oh, everything happens for a reason. Yes, okay. But at the same time, it's frustrating because people start talking bad about you, even though it's not you. So you got to just be strong and focus on yourself. And for sure, we don't do this for the people. But at the same time, it kind of looks bad on a resume. Even when I was trying to fight in the US, like there was like this promotion CFFC that they were like, no, we don't want to sign him. Like people will never fight him because he has too many pullouts. But my manager was like, dude, just click on the link on Tapology. Why? Like there's always the reason. It's not him. Like it's just like it's just unfortunate bad luck, you know. But anyway, so I'm still lucky enough that LFA gave me my chance, because LFA is a bigger promotion than CFFC. But that being said, people, they don't look into the details. They just think, oh, he's pulling out, blah blah blah, he's scared or whatever. So people start talking a little bit bad about you, you know, and you lose some followers and all that thing. So for sure, it's
actually hard. Sorry to interrupt there, sir. You actually lost followers because of this?
Yeah, 100%. And even like, well, in this MMA game, you know, when you win and everything goes well, everyone is behind you. When you lose or something's like it's not good, or like let's say you have some pullouts and you don't fight or blah blah blah, people just look. And to be honest, like I don't care, because it was a good thing, I think. But there's a lot of people that are not in my life anymore that I thought they were like my super good friends, and they didn't even text me. They live in Gatineau, and like there was good friends, and they didn't even text me when they knew that I was going to be main event here to ask, hey, I want to come, or I want to encourage you, you know. So there's a lot of people that are not there for the good reason. And I think those people, it's good that they're not in my life anymore. And I will not say name. I don't care. I'm not here for this. But yes, you lose a lot of friends. You lose sponsors. You lose a lot of followers. And this for sure sometimes can be hard on your mental and can be hard on your heart. You know, me, I'm a person guy. You know, I'm a kind guy. You know me, I'm a kind guy. Yes, I can fight, but I'm a very kind guy. I'm always there to help anybody. So for sure, like it got me a little bit more selfish, and I think that's good, because I was not enough selfish. And in this game, you have to be selfish a little bit, because if you don't take your place, somebody else is going to take it. Right. So that being said, it was unfortunate for this, but it was my reality. So like it was either I was okay, I'll do something else, but I didn't want to do something else. Like, I mean, I'm still working, I'm still making money with the high school thing. I'm good, you know. It's not like I have all my eggs in the MMA, but I was like, man, I want to fight again. I know I can compete with those guys. I know I can fight. So I won't stop, you know. So then COVID happened. I'm not happy about COVID at all, nothing. But the only thing that I don't want to say good, because it wasn't good, but the only thing that was maybe a good timing, if I can say, is that my son was born March 6, 2020. Wow. Okay. Wow. So it's like I think like 1 week before the lockdowns and everything. Right. So that being said, I had the opportunity me and my wife had the opportunity to be really like 100% together, the three of us, you know, for like the first year of my son, you know, like, because we were at home, and it was some good family time, of course. Yeah. And like it was a good way of me to getting used to be a dad and not having all the distractions outside, you know, because there was nothing else to do. And, you know, I was really like dedicated 100% to my son and my wife. And we were still training like at our gym. We were still training. I'm going to be honest, we were still training. So not the classes, but the pros, we were still training, and we were just like being careful. But yeah, we were still going to train. We were like maybe 2-3 guys. And sometimes I was going alone. I have the keys of the gym, so I was going at least once a day, even if I was alone, doing my workouts. I was lucky for this because I know a lot of people didn't have that chance. But anyway, that being said, like the first year, I was with my son, my wife, and we had like our family thing. So it was okay, you know. But then like I wanted to fight again, you know. I didn't want it to stop there, and I knew I had to make moves to go again. And once again, long story short, in January 2018, I was in Florida just for vacation. I was at my wife's grandparents because they own a house in Florida. And like back then, the gym was Hard Knocks 365, the gym in Florida.
Right.
So it was not at the same location as Kill Cliff is right now, but it was close, maybe 20-minute difference. But anyway, that being said, I was there, and I was there on vacation, but I knew like there was American Top Team and big gyms in Florida, so I brought my gear, and I was like, I want to like maybe try. So at the beginning, I wanted to go to American Top Team because I didn't know Hard Knocks 365 was in Florida, but I was following all those guys, Luke Rockhold, Anthony Rumble Johnson, Kamaru Usman, and the guys at American Top Team told me it was 400 US for 1 week. So I was like, okay, I don't have that kind of money, sorry. And I started to just look for fun on Instagram where Hard Knocks 365 was, and it was legit like 5 minutes from where I was. I'm like, what? Is it serious? So I just shooted a text, a DM, a direct message on Instagram to Henry Hoot. And like he didn't have to answer me. Like I was 5-0 at the time, but I mean, he has all those guys that are in UFC fighting for belts and blah blah blah. So he didn't have to answer me, and he told me, "Hey, you're welcome. Come try the week free."
Wow.
So I did 3 days there. 3 days. It was amazing. Like everyone, like they didn't know me, but they made me felt welcome. And I was like, wow. And I was training with all those guys. Luke Rockhold, he just lost his belt against Michael Bisping, but he was still like champion, you know. So there was all those guys there. Michael Chandler, it was a Bellator champion at the time. Anthony Rumble Johnson, you know, Michael Johnson. There was also Volkan Ozdemir was fighting like I think he was fighting like in 2 weeks when I was there. 2 weeks later, was fighting Daniel Cormier for the belt. So anyways, there was a bunch of like really high level, and I was training with them, and I was like, wow, I'm really there right now. I'm really like training with those guys. It's crazy. That being said, I always wanted to go back, but life made the things that I didn't go back earlier. And then I had my son, COVID happened and all that thing. And I was like, okay, now it's time to go back to Hard Knocks 365, but they had moved to the new location. It was called Sanford MMA. Now they just changed name. It's called Kill Cliff FC. So we'll call them Kill Cliff. But yeah, so I was like, it's time to go to Kill Cliff. So I've contacted them. They're like, yeah, man, come. And it was like, listen, it was really not expensive, like really not expensive. Like it was costing me less there than here, you know. Like I was
really,
like,
wow.
Yeah, really, honestly. And I was like, okay, so I'm gonna go. And I knew, like I said, I knew that 100% the only way I was gonna get a fight was being in the US, you know. So like, and I knew that I couldn't not even have my coach with me because the borders were closed.
Right.
So we went in plane. I made my car ship there. We stayed 5 months. So I made my car ship there. So it cost me $2,000 to make my car ship there. And we went in plane. They let us go to the border because I told them it was for fights and everything. They're like, okay, we'll let you go. So I was lucky enough. The plane was empty. Like I think we were maybe 10 people in the plane. So it was really like the airports were empty like crazy, you know?
Right.
But that being said, went there, started to train with those guys. I had an amazing time. And yes, I don't regret it. Even though I lost, I don't regret it at all. Like I said, the only reason I lost was because I was mentally weak on that day in that fight. And I took bad decisions in that fight. And a fight, it's only 3 rounds of 5 minutes, so you don't like. I was getting comfortable at the end of the fight. I would have needed like 2 more rounds, But anyway, that being said, no regrets. No, I was really happy to go there, and I had my opportunity with LFA. So at the end of the day, I think it was a winning situation, even though I lost, because I got the chance to really like be around all those guys that are like la crème de la crème. They are the top of the tops, and I was training with them every day. And I got like now they're my friends. And what I like about that, and in the US, is that it's really a professional team. So there's no amateur that are trainings with you. And it's not that I don't want amateur training with me, but what I mean is that everyone has the same goal. And there's a schedule, it's every morning from Monday to Friday, it's 10 to 12, the trainings. And there's also from Monday to Friday, there's a training at nights also that is more technical, but everyone has to go. And if you're not, you have to have a legit reason if you don't go. So everyone is going every time. It's a schedule. It's a professional team, and there's really like this schedule that you follow. Everything is already right down. You just have to show up. You follow, you do it, you learn, you train hard, then you go home, maybe even make a nap because the training are so hard and it's so hot, you lose a lot of calories in one training. But I mean, it's really like everyone has the same goal. So everyone kind of lifts the team up, It's like everyone's lifts each other up, and it's hard, but everyone is there for each other. And it's really like a big family, So I really, really like enjoy that. And yeah, so that's why I still go sometimes. For sure, like I would never want to not have my coaches here anymore. I think like the private trainings that I do here with Patrick and Marcil and Martin Patenaude is very, very important also, because I learn a lot. I also learn a lot at Killcliff, but it's a lot of guys. So the coaches cannot give like their time to all of the guys, you know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
There's some guys that are fighting for belts, UFC belts, and things like that. So for sure, you have to know where your place is. But like, I get to train with all those guys, spar with them, wrestle with them, roll with them. So it's like very amazing. But I think the two, like, to do like maybe like 1 month in Florida, 1 month here, or 2 weeks, 2 weeks, or something like that. This I think is the best formula, because you get to work hard with your coaches here, learn a lot, get new skills, and like, Sifu and Martin, them personally, they can kick my ass pretty bad if they want to. So they still spar with me, they still roll with me, they still like really kick my ass, like I say. So I get this here too. But of course, when I go there, it's just that I get to test myself with people that I don't know that much, and people that I know that, oh shit, okay, he's top 5 UFC. So if I can handle myself, well, why can I not win a fight, So it's really good for the confidence. It's really good for the like your wrestling shape too, because they are really focused on the wrestling there with Coach Greg Jones. He was an amazing wrestler in his high school, university, collegial. He was like, I think he holds like eight record in the US or something like that. He's a phenomenal coach too. It's really like, he screams at you a lot of time, but it's always good, it's always good for you. But I think it's really, really a good for my wrestling shape, wrestling cardio, because that's what I saw too going to the US, is that unfortunately, even though GSP he was the best MMA wrestler, if I can say.
Sure.
Canadian wrestling, I don't want to say suck, but US is a little bit higher, the level of the wrestling there, I think, is a little bit higher. For sure that we have phenomenal wrestlers in Canada too, but I just mean that they're the guys there, they start when they're young, It's like us here playing hockey.
Exactly.
The guys there start wrestling when they're 3-4 years old. So they become very good athletes,
They do. I just want to jump in real quick and say, for the wrestling in the US, you're right. They start very young, but there's a huge community of wrestling. It's very accessible for kids, for boys and girls throughout the United States. It's very accessible and it's affordable. We live here in Ottawa and Gatineau region, and how many wrestling clubs are there? I mean, we're looking at 1.5, 1.6 million people in this area. There aren't many wrestling gyms, whereas in the US, you go to small town, or every school will have a wrestling program, integrated. So it's apples and oranges. It's very different. But this is really fascinating speaking to you about all this. I just want to know, how much time do we have? Because I have a feeling this one might be long, and which is all good. I just want to know approximately how much time do we think can we go?
Yeah, I'm not stressed at all, my friend.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Because one of the other questions I wanted to ask you is in regards to, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys decided to relocate to the US for 5 months just as COVID was happening.
Yeah.
Hearing all that, it sounds to me, would it be fair to say that when you're pursuing a goal in combat sports, in professional mixed martial arts, you got to be willing to take that risk, right? You took a risk, you did it, and you look back, and obviously you're very happy with your decision, as you should be, because it was towards your goal. So I kind of want to frame this question with my next question. Like you made your amateur debut in mixed martial arts back in 2011, followed by your professional debut 3 years later in 2014. Correct me if I'm wrong on this.
I think it's this. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been at this now for almost 12 years. You've been at this. You're obviously well known within the Canadian mixed martial arts scene and community. Now, for those who might not be familiar with you, can you tell us about why you fight and how you fight? What motivates you to compete? And what are your goals at this stage in your career? Because it sounds like, you made that leap, you decided to relocate to the US, and you got to fight avec la crème de la crème là-bas. Puis, you got exposed to all that. And I'm sure that does a lot to your level of skill in terms of refining your skill sets, exploring your ability as a wrestler, but also the fact that you're gaining confidence. You're gaining confidence fighting with the quality opponents. And I can tell from the first time that I met you to who I'm speaking to now, it's two different people, completely different people.
For sure.
And even from having seen your last fight at LFA, I remember thinking to myself, there was some exchanges on the ground, were there not? There was some ground grappling. And I remember thinking, wow, because from all the previous other fights, I think I'd seen three or four of your other fights, primarily there was a lot of striking. It was more striking based. And I was in a way surprised to see that evolution of Julien Leblanc, like very, very open to the submission base, like, the grappling aspect. And I was like, wow, this guy's continuously adding to his game as he should. So what motivates you to compete? What are your goals at this stage in your career? And tell us a little bit about who you are within the Canadian combat sports ecosystem and so on.
Yeah, so I think that like you said, I started my amateur in 2011, but I did like fight nights, inter-school fight nights before that in 2010. So yeah, like I've started this game, I was 16 years old, but I came from far away. Like I couldn't do a push-up at 16 years old. And even my coach, Sifu, never thought, like at the beginning, I would be able to fight even in a amateur fight. So I've come a long way. I've worked really hard. Like it's always been, I've never been in that really athletic person. I've never been like a gift. Like, I don't want to say like I've been gifted a lot with my family and all those things. But I mean, like athletic wise, I was not a natural fighter, but I always didn't care of getting hit. That's the thing. I was not scared of getting hit. I like it. Like it's weird, but I like it getting hit. And I always like to scrap. Like even when I was playing hockey when I was younger, I liked to scrap. I was like I was a guy that liked to scrap, even though I was goaltender. But I was always like low when there was a fight or like something happening. I was always there, and I'm just a guy that works hard, man. Like honestly, like I was getting my ass kicked at the beginning when I was 16, 17 years old by some of the guys, but I was working way harder than them. So 2 years later, I was kicking their asses, And I think that beginning private trainings with Sifu Pat forged me a lot too. I started right away at 16, training once a week with him, and we still train once a week private together. since that day. So it's been what? It's been 15 years. I'm 31 now. It's been
I don't want to cut you off. You please
Okay.
continue after I say this. It's incredible to see how strong of a relationship so many people have to Sifu Patrick Marcil.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
incredible.
he changed a lot of lives, and he
For
changed a
real.
lot of lives, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think he doesn't get enough credit for it. But yeah, like we have a good relationship, and he's like, like a father for me. And I always look up to him because he's a killer, and he's not scared of anyone, and he really
And
can
he's
kick
still
ass.
young. He's still a young man. He's not,
Still a
when
young
you
man.
say he's a father,
Yeah.
I know, I understand what that means, of
Yeah.
course. But he's not, I think he's in his like early to mid
47.
40s.
47.
Yeah, he's not that. I mean, he's not that old, but he's had such an
He's gonna be
influence.
47. No,
Right.
he's still young, and he doesn't like, like it was funny because when we go coach in the UFC, everyone is like, no, you're not 47. No way. You're like 40, 38, something like that. He's like, he doesn't have like even a gray hair. Like he doesn't have
Wow.
nothing gray. Like he still has his black hair, and
Wow.
he's really in shape. But Sifu has been living the martial arts life since he's young. He
That's
doesn't
right.
even drink coffee. Like he's really centered with his body, with his mind.
Right.
Always training. He still does the split, like no problem. He does a split like that. He's still spinning kicks me in the head, like easy like that. So he's still like the craziest guy that I spar with him. But I think that the fact that I always train with him in private, like I was ready for anyone because he's just a killer everywhere, on the ground, on the feet, in wrestling. And he has unorthodox techniques with the Jeet Kune Do background. He has unorthodox techniques that works a lot, because most of the fighter, they're like, oh, we box, we Muay Thai, we do jiu-jitsu, wrestling, but he just have some techniques that people are not really used to it.
Right.
So I think that helps a lot. And when I go like in Florida and all those places, I like those techniques works. Like for sure, like at certain level, the guys like they're more aware of it, but still really works. And that's what I like. But yeah, so we've been working hard together. And like I said, my mentality was always work hard and harder than the others, and that's
Right.
I think that what made that I was always improving. But my goal, like right now, my goal for sure, I would love to fight in the UFC. That's for sure. I would love to fight in Bellator, ONE FC2, PFL. Like my goal for sure is to fight in the biggest promotion I can. But at that stage, like what motivates me is that I just love to fight. And like I said, I don't do it for the others. I do it for myself. But at the same time, with all the bad luck and everything that happened, I think that I owe myself, and I owe the people another fight, another big win, another great performance. Because my last fight, I didn't show really what I can do. And I kind of like, every time I watch it back, I'm like, fuck, I could have really like fought better than that. I actually took down the wrestler. Like first round, I took down the wrestler. But it was like in my mind, I was like, I don't know why. Like even though he reversed me, like at the end of the first round, he reversed me and he was on top. I was like, okay, no, I can take him down, and I can, because I had his back in the first round, but whatever. I had him on the feet too, but I was like playing the wrestling game against him, and he was better than me at that game. So even though I took him down the first round, he took me down the second and the third round, and I was getting up, he was taking me down again. So I lost like that. I should have like really strike him, because yes, I'm a striker. My strength is striking. I love to strike. I have a powerful kick. I've broke a lot of ribs in training of my partners. You can ask some guys from Montreal. I've dropped a lot of people too with that kick. So for sure, like I really like my striking. I've been working a lot also with Martin Patenaude on my striking and my ground game and privates. Like we do two privates a week with me and Martin. And I see a big difference. Like I can see, like legit, if I miss a week, I see the difference. Like if I miss a week of private with Martin, I see the difference the next week. So working hard and being confident in myself. I think I'm more confident right now, even though I lost my last and all that thing. I'm more confident right now because I know what I can do, and I've trained with the best, and I'm just not scared, man. I've lost 2 times. I lost my 2 fights, my 2 last fights. I've lost them. I didn't win since November 2017. what do I have to lose? Nothing. But I know I can win. I know that I can win because I'm very good at that sport. And I've been working for the past 15 years. I've acquired some skills. I've acquired some experience. I've trained, I've coached 4 times in the UFC. I've trained 6 times in Vegas. I've went at least like 8 months in Florida with the best. Like in the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I can do. I know that I can compete with those guys. I know it's not easy, but I know what I can do. So right now, my goal, like I said, is really just to fight and to win my next fight. I don't think like ahead of that.
Right.
For sure, I still think I have I've never been like a touch wood, but never been knocked out. And yes, for sure, like couple surgeries here and there, but never been knocked out. And my health is good, so I think I can fight again couple years for sure. But the first goal is just to win my next fight and to make money with it. So I'm happy that my next fight, I'll make some good money. Finally, after all those ups and downs, I'll make some good money, really good money. So I'm really happy about it. So right now, my goal is just to focus on May 26th and to give the people what they deserve, to give myself what I deserve to. And that's it. That'd be like, this is what I want,
Mm-hmm. Now, I appreciate everything you're saying here. You're being very honest and open, and it's great, as someone who's obviously I'm listening to this interview, I'm partaking in it, but there's a lot of you're a very genuine person is what I'm saying, and I appreciate the openness with your answers here.
Right.
Now, you fought for a number of different promotions throughout your career, including LFA, TKO, Rec MMA, and Hybrid Pro Series. Are there any particular fights or opponents that stand out as being especially memorable or challenging for you?
For sure, the last one, Joel. Like, he was good, man. He was good, to be honest. He was good on the feet, on the ground. Like, everyone in the US were talking about him. Like, they knew him. Even at the gym, they knew him. They knew it was going to be a rough one, a hard test. But when I was in that cage with him, like, honestly, like, I don't know what happened, but I could have knocked him out. I'm sure of it 100%. If I would have kept it stand up and I wouldn't be stuck mentally and gun shy, I would have knocked him out, I'm sure. And he was really tired, and I don't know. I just fought not good, but for sure, like the LFA experience really
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, I had a phone call, but I'm sorry. So yes, for sure, the LFA promotion, LFA fight stand out because I knew it was a big promotion. It was my first fight in the US too. That was one of my goals. I don't want to stop there, but I wanted to say, hey, I fought in the US once in my life at least. So it really stand out because also it's so much easier in the US with all the medicals and like the commissions. Like I think like they're a step ahead of us. Like if you think about Quebec, I'm gonna fight in Quebec with the commission, and like Quebec commission, I'm sorry, but they're 20 years behind. Like they're very, very old school, and I don't know. Like it's all good, but they're really old school. So I think that the LFA fight stand out a lot. My Rec MMA fight, I know we did an interview after this when I broke the guy's arm. With all the support that I have had from the people there, that was crazy experience too. And I'm looking forward to similar experience May 26th, But for sure, those 2 fights were really good fights. But I think the one that I'm most proud of it is the one against Gabriel Rossi. That was at Hybrid. I was 2-0. He was 2-1, but he was a legit Muay Thai fighter. He fought like in front of the King of Thailand, and he's like the protege of Jean-Charles Skarbowski. He now owns or teach Skarbowski gym in Thailand. But anyway, Gabriel. So everyone in my training camp, even like the guys I was training in Montreal, they were like, "Oh man, you gotta take him down. You're gonna get knocked out in the feet." Blah blah. First round, he destroyed my leg good. Like I think he kicked me like 40 times in the leg. And I was like surprised because he was like better striker than I thought. I thought I was a good striker, but first round, I'm like, fuck, this guy is good. And so he destroyed my leg. But second round, like my coaches Sifu and Martin, they really like talked to me good. They're like, man, use your hands. You're not using your hands. You're only like playing the kicking game against him. Like if you continue that game, he's gonna win. But use your hands, set up your kicks. And the second round, like I really used my hands and I knocked him out. So it was good because everyone thought I was going to get knocked out. And even before the fight, they were like, if you don't take him down, you're getting knocked out. And I swear, people were saying this to me in my face. And I knocked him out. So that was a very, very good feeling. The best feeling I never had because it was a hard round. First round, he won that round. So I was down one round. Second round, I came out. I don't know what happened in my head, but I came out stronger than ever, knocked him out cold. So for sure that was the best experience of my life fighting wise, that's for sure. And
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to cut you off, but this is not fighting for, like I was not fighting, but for sure like corner Barrio 4 times in the UFC was an amazing experience too, you know, like it's not everyone that gets to say they were cornering in the UFC. So for sure I would love to fight in the UFC, but like I had the chance to corner 4 times. I think it's very cool too. And I was there, you know, with all those guys. And I saw one thing. They're all humans. That's what I saw when I was there backstage, warming up at the weigh-in. They're all the same as me, humans.
Right.
So
we're going to get into that. No, for sure. I want to hear more about that. But before we do, real quick, I was there at that fight with Rossi. And I thought it was a very pinnacle moment for you at the time. Winning that, you made quite a statement, of course, because your opponent Rossi was quite you know, he was a striker and everyone knew he had that forte, but you went in and you knocked him out, excuse me, and you represented. Going back to your fight on at the LFA there, which was available for people on Fight Pass, of course. I saw that. I watched that on Fight Pass, and in all honesty, man, there were moments in that fight where I'm like, man, he's gonna knock him out. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that to
no
to annoy you or whatever.
No,
true. Everyone in Ottawa Gatineau who was watching it was cheering for you, myself included. Obviously, you know, and I'm watching this and I'm like, it's gonna happen. It's gonna. Yeah. So I can only imagine, you know, the frustration afterwards. And I know people don't talk openly about these sorts of things, but it's you know, the fight game, of course, any competitive sport at this level, it can be very brutal, right? It can be very harsh. It can be very it is what it is, right? This is what they say they call the hurt business, the fight game, and so on and so forth. I do recall thinking after that match, I was like, man, I just hope that he keeps going, because it's like, you know what I'm saying? Because it's a big hurdle for anyone, especially now that you could have knocked him out and you've seen the fight, you know that, and I'm sure it adds to it. My follow-up question is, because we spoke about this indirectly, have you or anyone at the gym, be it in Deerfield or here in Gatineau, like, is there any room for sports psychology or some sort of mental training? If you could talk to us about any of that, any mental training that you guys do or preparation, because it seems to be like the elephant, you know, the expression, the elephant in the room, right? It seems to be that, I would imagine.
Well, me, like, and I'm really open about talking about it. I work with a very good sports psychologist. His name is Michel Pinard. I know he sees some NHL players and all that thing, but he's very good. He's been working alongside me for the past, I think, 5 years. Wow. And he's helping me a lot. He helps me a lot, and he helped me a lot too. And he always been there, like, not for the money at all, honestly. Like, he's not there for the money. He's there really to help me. And he's good. Like, he has some good techniques. But at the end of the day, like, a lot of visualization for sure. You got to see yourself winning. But me, I can say something. Like, for me, this is the most thing. Like, it's the same thing as if you're going to do an exam when you're in high school, okay, or university. if you didn't study, you're not going to be confident mentally because you know deep down that you didn't do the work. So me, I feel it's the same thing in preparation. If I didn't train, if I cut the corners around, oh, I had a beer there with my friends, oh, I had a pizza, too much pizza, I had McDonald's, whatever, oh, I skipped training, oh, you're not going to get to the fight confident, you know? So I think it's a lot of visualization for sure. I think having a sports psychologist helps a lot. I know some guys in Deerfield at Killcliff, some UFC guys they have a sport psychologist. They work hard with them, but I think it's begins in the preparation, because if you don't prepare well and you know that you didn't prepare well, there's no way that you can be mentally 100%. That's for sure.
Right.
That is for sure. But at the same time, if we think about the LFA fight, it was not a lack of preparation, because I was in Florida for 4 months, 5 months, like training like my ass off, 5 months, like training every day, never skipped a training. I was more than ready. I was the best shape of my life. Right. I could have went another 3 rounds, but I think it was more that how can I say, it was more that I froze. I froze. Like, I don't know. I was like, it was so long since I didn't fought like a real fight.
Right.
It's like I was maybe scared a little bit of getting knocked out or something like that, you know? And this is after the fight. I'm like, fuck, it was not even hitting hard. And I didn't even have a black eye. I didn't have nothing. Like, so it was really mentally, because in that fight, I was only like, I had him on the feet in 3rd round. He was like, hey, he was hands on his knees. Like, he was like breathing heavy on his knees. And I fucking, sorry, my language, but I went 1-2 and I hugged him. I'm like, why? After when I look, 1-2, hugged him. No, right. 1-1, bam, bam. Like stay away and knock him out. Like, right. And my corner Tuco, like it was not Sifu, because he couldn't be there, but Tuco, like he corners a lot of guys at the gym. He fights too. He's very a good corner. He's an amazing person, Tuco. I love him so much. A very good person. And he was screaming, violence, Julien. We need violence. And you can hear him on the UFC Fight Pass if you look at the video. And I never listened to him. It's like I was scared of like doing violence. But after, when I looked at the fight, I'm like, hey, I could have won this fight. So once again, you know what I think that was? It was a lack of experience.
Wow.
That's what I think it was. A lack of experience. Because after that fight, I was like, oh, it was only this? Like, I could have fought. Like, I didn't even fought. Like, honestly, I didn't even fought. And when you see it on the striking, I had him like with those low side kicks, my roundhouse, like I had him good on the feet.
Right.
But you see, like in the first round, he charges me, and I go like I go like this. I'm all like, it's like I panicked, like, and like he didn't even touch me. And I was like, oh shit! Like, you could see it was a lack of experience, like too much time maybe without fighting, and all that thing. But I don't know. I really froze on that one. But I've been working hard with my sports psychologist since that day. So it doesn't happen again on May 26th, you know?
For sure.
But it's stupid to say it, but I'm more confident, even though I lost, than I was before the fight. Because I knew that, man, I could have won. And I knew that it was only this. And the other thing I never say or will never say, but I'll say it, I don't care. It's no excuse at all, like no excuse. But in the first round, after when I had his back and then he switched and he was in my guard, he threw an elbow and I slipped the elbow, but he broke my collarbone. So in the first round, I had this wrist and my collarbone was broken. And you can see the ref between the first round and between the first and the second, and between the second and the third, the ref comes see me. Do you want me to stop it? Because he like, you could see like I couldn't lift my arm up. So and I told him, no, you don't stop it. I'm finishing this fight. So that was another challenge. Like, I was still throwing my cross, but every time I was throwing my cross, you can see I was like this after. So for sure, like another reason why I was going hugging him, you know, like because. Right. It was broken. So I didn't know it was broken, but I knew something was wrong, because when I get up from like the first round finish, he's in my guard, and I get up and you see I'm like this, and I'm like, fuck, so something happened. So I'm sure it's that elbow that got me there. But with the adrenaline and everything, I finished the fight. But after the fight, I couldn't even lift my arm up or nothing, you know.
Jeez.
So
That's
but
that's incredible insight there as to what happened with that elbow onto
but
the
it's not
collarbone.
excuse. It's no
No,
excuse.
of course not. No, I don't think anyone is interpreting that as an excuse. I would hope not. Of course, you're putting
I
that
never
in
said
context. Exactly. This is news to me. I didn't hear any. You know what I mean? So this is it's all good. I have a question here in regards to the MMA is obviously extremely physically demanding combat sports, requires a lot of training and sacrifice. Can you talk about some of the challenges you faced as a fighter and what motivates you to keep pursuing greatness despite those challenges? I think you've already answered this question, from people pulling out of the fights and the situation with COVID and having to relocate to the United States. So if you don't mind, I'm going to skip to my next question here.
Oh, let's go.
There's been a lot of discussion recently about quote unquote fighters' pay and lack of financial support for fighters in some promotions. Curious to know, what are your thoughts on the issue and how do you think it could be addressed to better support fighters and the sport as a whole?
I think it's a game that unfortunately you have to win to make money, you know?
Right.
So for sure, fighters could make more money. I know that, we all know that UFC, they have a lot of money, and I think the percentage that goes to fighter are not that high. But at the same time, it's not boxing. UFC, they like all the guys always they can fight 3-4 times a year if they want. They do shows pretty much every week. I think the guys, when they win, they make good money. Like Barrio makes good money now. Like he makes good money for sure. When you start, you don't make that big money, and there's also a lot of expenses, like regarding your coaches and everything.
Right.
The thing I can say, maybe like I think the promotions could maybe pay a little bit more. Like let's say like provide food for coaches when they go for fight week, because we have to eat in restaurants or like go do our groceries. They provide food for fighters but not coaches. I think this should be maybe like reviewed, because like without the coaches there's no fighters, But I think that the pay itself, if you look at any promotion, Bellator, UFC, PFL, ONE FC, when you start, if you're not a big name, you don't make that much money. It's like this everywhere. So I know that Jake Paul calls out Dana White and all that thing. Look, like I know that some guys makes very good money with fighting.
Sure.
And I know the UFC, they sometimes give some money under the table to the fighters too. So there's a lot that we don't see,
Sure.
Some good things, some bad things for sure.
Right.
But for the fighters' pay, at the same time, they cannot pay everyone on the roster $200K, like
sure.
It's not the same as the NHL. It's not the same as NFL.
Right.
They get to train at the PI if they want. They get surgery free. Like UFC take care of them. They really take good care of them. So for sure, I think, yes, they could make maybe a little bit more money. But at the same time, when you win and when you stick there, you make some good money. Like Barrio, I won't say how much he makes, but he makes some good money. He made some good money with his last two fights. He's fighting again June 10, sorry. He's going to make some good money again. So it's like in 1 year, he'll make more than most of anyone that works for the government here. Way more, like 3 times more.
That's amazing.
Good, and he has exactly good for him. But I mean, for sure, when you start, you don't make that good money, but you have to win in this game. And it's the unfortunate part of the fighting. If you lose, sponsors drop you, friends drop you, girlfriends drop you, promotions drop you. But if you lose, yes, you don't make money. It's a winning game. This is what it is, And
Great
when
answer.
you're no problem. But when you're at a certain level of like people want to see you fight, like Masvidal, like he wins, he lose, he wins, he lose. He's gonna make probably like $500K this weekend. It's good money. The guy has 20 losses.
Wow.
And he's gonna make 500K plus probably pay-per-view shares. So I understand that some fighters say they don't make money, and yes, you have to pay your taxes, you have to pay the gym, you have to pay the coaches, and so at the end of the day, a lot of it goes. But it's the game we're in, and everyone knows that. So I think maybe a way they could help more is like UFC only pay one coach to come. So sometimes you have 2-3 coach. So it's the fighter that needs to pay the hotel, plane tickets, and everything. Maybe they could like pay 2 coaches at least, or provide the food for the coaches or something like that. You know, it's cool. Like they give a big bag of venom full of clothes to the coaches, and that's amazing. I have 4 bags here. I'm really happy. I have some nice clothes. I'm super happy. Right. But maybe a way that could improve would be, okay, we'll provide food also, not only for the fighter, but for the coaches too. And things like we'll pay the plane for the coaches, and maybe things like that could change. But for the fighters' pay, I think they make good money. You just have to win. That's it. That's all. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, no, this is that's an excellent answer. In fact, I think that we don't get to hear. We tend to hear more of the criticism coming from some individuals, in terms of, and everyone is entitled to their opinion, but we don't hear the other side where people paint that other picture. I think it's always healthy to get as many sides to any story for context. So I do appreciate that. My next question here, I was going to ask you about basically, you've fought for a number of different promotions throughout your career. What are some of the key differences between competing in small regional promotion versus larger, more established promotions? Obviously you cornered 4-time in the UFC for Barrio. Can you give us some insight as to what that experience was like, cornering 4 times in the UFC, and kind of a behind the scene perspective as a cornerman coach?
Yeah, well, I think like for sure, like there's a big gap between the UFC and the small regional promotions. Even though, like I'll just a perfect example. So let's say if I compare hybrid or rec to TKO, okay? So hybrid or rec, the smaller promotions, and it was both, like TKO was in Quebec too,
right.
But TKO for sure they had more budget before screwing everyone. But like let's say hybrid, so you get to the weigh-ins, then you have to see the commission, fill up some papers and all that thing. Only the weigh-in takes like 4 hours, okay? And it's just like, I don't know, it's just like old school. But TKO, when you arrive the day before the weigh-in at the hotel, the commission had their desk there, already there. TKO was paying for them to be at the hotel and everything for 3 days. So you get there, you do all the paperwork, you see the doctor, then you only have to focus on your weight cut. The next day, you get to weigh in anytime, like the UFC, anytime in the morning, and then there's the official weigh-in. Rec, it was like, okay, you fill up the papers, you see, blah, blah, blah. Then you wait until noon for the weigh-in, then you weigh in, then you can eat and drink. So it was just like, I think a little bit like more old school for the smaller promotions. Right. Regarding like TKO was really like, okay, and they were testing everyone like for steroids and weed and all that thing. Mm-hmm. So I think it was more like advanced maybe, but it's because of the money, right? Sure. If I compare to UFC, for sure UFC it's the highest promotion you can go in the world. It was an amazing experience. The 4 times I went, crazy experience, even though it was the 4 times without a crowd, it was amazing. So basically I lived it in the COVID time. But I was lucky to live it there because the UFC had really like rented a full hotel. It was like a Marriott, Marriott suites. Okay, so it was small suites. Okay. So we had 2 suites, and they have 2 rooms each. So we had like 4 rooms with four bathrooms and all that, a kitchen, like a living room with a TV and all that thing. So we were getting to Vegas. Then we had the COVID protocols. Then we were going to the Whole Foods, do a grocery. We were eating, watching television. We were going to train to the PI. That was amazing because, you know, you go to the PI, everyone in fight week has their hours to go, but you meet a lot of fighters at the PI, like, you know, like the biggest. Like one time I was at the PI and Mike Tyson was there. Like
Wow.
I didn't take a picture because I was like, I don't want to bug him for a picture, but he was there and I shook his hand. Like I met Mike Tyson. Like how crazy is this, you know?
That is insane, yeah.
So, and like there's a bunch of guys there that you're like, they're training, like Mike Perry, you know Mike Perry?
Yeah.
So one time I was at the PI and Mike Perry was there. I'm like, hey, I didn't even know him. I was just like training and he was training on the back. I'm like, hey bro, you want to spar light? He's like, yeah, let's go. I'm like, all right. So we sparred, me and him. We ended up doing 12 rounds of 3 minutes. Wow. And he made me bleed. And after it was like, hey man, you move good. You have good kicks, blah, blah. So I was like, man, this guy is a crazy guy. And I just like did 12 rounds with him. So just some crazy experience that end up like happening because you're there, you know?
Right.
And for sure the show, like the weigh-in, like you go there, like I say, you see all the guys, they're all humans like you. They're all the same. I mean, they're not like different because they're in the UFC. It's all the same as you. They're just in the UFC. When it's fight night, fight day, like it's super like you have to be at that time there, like, and like when it's ready to walk out, okay, you're going Marc-André, you're going 10, 9, 8, like, okay, walk. Then he has to make his walk. I mean, it's all like really like super like
organized and
point and exactly.
Sure.
But at the same time, like I was saying, you're backstage and you're warming up before he goes to fight, and you see all the other fighters are there too, and they're all the same as you. They all do pads like you. They all look the same as me. Like, I mean, they're human.
Right.
So I'm like, why can I not be there? You know?
Right.
So I think like it was very like a cool experience for a lot of reasons, but mostly because I got to coach in the UFC and I got to see everyone, like Joe Rogan, like he was there, like beside me was interviewing Barrio, Michael Bisping, Dana White, like, you know, it's just like you're there, like you're really there. Even though I'm not fighting, I'm like, hey, I'm here, like I'm really here. And even though you only corner, you get so much support from everyone too, you know, because people think it's cool, and it's a great achievement to say, hey, I've coached in the UFC. Like, there's not a lot of people that can say this, you know.
No, it's a major achievement. Absolutely. Curious to know in terms of so you've cornered Power Bar. That's Marc-André Barrio, right?
Yeah.
Tell us his evolution, if you don't mind. Kind of give us quickly kind of his evolution as a fighter in the last couple of years, because correct me if I'm wrong. There are not many Canadian fighters, I think, in the UFC at the moment. I don't have the stat. I should have.
There's Barrio, there's Mike Malott, Carl Nelson, Jasmine Van something, a girl, and there's Johan Lennes and Charles Jourdain. So there's 6.
There's 6.
6 fighters.
And I mean, it's a global brand. It's bringing in fighters from all over the world, and we know that Canada has tremendous talent. I know I'm being biased because obviously, you know, I live here, blah blah blah. But
it's true.
Canada has always been a powerhouse in amateur and professional mixed martial arts. Now, the question I want to ask is about Marc-André Barrio. You've seen him there at obviously you're cornering him as he was fighting in the UFC. Speak to us about his. I'm framing it as his evolution as a fighter, but you can change that into whatever you want. How has he changed as a fighter over the last couple of years, especially fighting at the highest level professionally?
Yeah. I think he improved a lot for sure. I think Marc-André, one of his strengths is he's really good of listening to himself. What I want to say is that he's not the kind of guy that's going to overtrain. He's really like always listening to his body. He's always confident. He's always in good shape. Like, he really doesn't cut the corners off. He's really disciplined fighter. I think since he came back in Gatineau and then he left for Florida, when I was there, he came to meet me and he decided to move there for good. It's been 2 years that he lives there, but I see a big improvement in his not his shape, but in his strength, in his cardio, in his wrestling a lot since he's in Florida. It's been 2 years. I see a guy that's really confident. I see a veteran that he knows what he has to do. He knows, like, he knows the game. He knows what he has to do. He knows where to go. He knows when to do things. For sure, like, he has 10 fights in the UFC. It's crazy. Like, it's very good. He's a guy that always fight. He never takes off. Always fights. He fights 3 times a year. He's really active. And like I said, he believes in himself and believes in his ways of training. Like, when we're in Florida, he doesn't train every day. Like, I mean, he always like trains every day, but he doesn't do like the hard session every day. But I think that what's making that good, because he's always ready for the next day when he goes. And when he goes, So I think he's really good at listening to himself and taking good decisions for himself. That's one of his biggest strengths. And for sure, he's good in the gym. Like, he's good everywhere. Like, I feel like he's improved a lot on the ground. Honestly, like, on the ground, he improved a lot since the last 2 years since he's there. I feel like he's improved a lot in wrestling and on the ground. That's for sure. But he needs, like I said, Marc has one way to fight. Like, he's a guy that throws bombs, and he's a tough guy, and he's a durable guy. So I think he needs to stick to this, and that's why he always brings Sifu. Sifu reminds him of who he is and what he needs to do to win. If he tries to go too fancy, maybe sometimes it doesn't work. But when he goes back to his roots, that when he's the best.
Fascinating. It's interesting when you speak about him having to be authentic with himself as a fighter, to fight his style, which is very entertaining, right? Like, people, especially the last couple of fights, pardon me, you begin to see why they call him Power Bar, and you see the madness that he brings. And it's almost like they're also framing him and marketing him in that way, the way his story is being told and in the commentary and all that, which is fantastic for him. But I find, if you don't mind, I'll just quickly say this. One thing about him that I think stands out the most is this kind of like this, how do I say it? To say someone is confident, it's one thing. This guy believes, like, he believes in himself in a way that, like, is it heart? Is it a strong mind? Is it a strong heart? Is it a combination of both? But you can tell, like, he believes in himself as a fighter, even when he's in a situation where you think he might be compromised, in the sense that where he might lose or what have you. He still has that fire, which is an awesome natural gift, I guess, in a way, for any athlete or any individual. That belief in self, it can be taught, absolutely, but it's almost easier when you have it. Now, you've been in the fight game now for 12 years. How have you seen the MMA landscape in Canada change during that time, both in terms of the number of promotions and the level of competition? If you can educate us on that, because you have a lot of this insight. You're someone who's trained, you're someone who's fought, you're someone who's coached, and you've been all over the place in the last couple of years. So kind of paint that picture for us on the landscape of Canadian MMA.
I think it's been great. I think it's still evolving. Like I say, like, there's a lot of promotions now, and there's a lot of good promotion. There's a couple ones on Fight Pass too. There's a lot of good talents, upcoming talents. For sure, there's always room for more, especially in Quebec. Like, they need to put MMA amateur legal, because how do they think people will turn pro if they cannot fight amateur? So that's weird a little bit. I think the Quebec Commission and government need to improve a lot, especially like the commission, like I was saying, with the weigh-ins and all that things. Like, they need to get up to date. But for the promotions and for the people, I think like the TKO era, it's unfortunate that it ended up that way, but the TKO era they had good fighters, and that I know they were not only coming from Canada, but it was a good platform for Canadian, and the level was really, really high.
Mm-hmm.
The level is still super high right now. There's guys like Jonathan Ramsey, who's a good fighter, he's upcoming good fighter. Tommy Morrison, my partner Isaac Blais, my partner Alain Majoric. You know, we have a heavyweight Pierre Patry. Like there's a lot of good guys still fighting. For sure, COVID hurt a little bit the Canadian MMA, especially like some guys they left, they went to fight elsewhere. But we're lucky now with Samourai. I think Samourai with Daniel Lafont is doing an amazing job to get the confidence back of the MMA fighters and also the MMA fans after what TKO did. I think honestly we're lucky to have Daniel and we're lucky to have Samourai, and that's why I was really, really happy to sign with them for my next fight. I was super, super grateful, super happy, and I think that Daniel is making an amazing job of, like I said, of just putting on some great shows, some great venues, and he tries to do some great matchups too. So I think with Daniel, there's a good opportunity to bring back the MMA where it was in the TKO area, and even better, I think, because he really is a fan, and he really puts his heart on the table for us. And I think we need to be grateful to have him right now.
Absolutely. But before we get into that, I just quickly want to say that I think, you know, when we look at the Canadian landscapes for MMA, combat sports as a whole, it's obvious that Quebec is like the foundation and structure, especially for some of these other amateur sports.
Yeah.
When we look at judo, when we look at boxing, when we look at wrestling, all, you know, most of the entire, like all the national teams train out of Montreal and or other parts of Quebec. So it's a huge sort of, it's the foundation of the ecosystem that is, you know, combat sports and you know, even amateur and pro. Of course, pro would be at boxing and MMA. And it's important to have strong, you know, regional promotions, be it in Quebec or Ontario or in BC now and in Alberta. We're seeing, as you're saying, like there's other promotions that are climbing up. And I think as a fan, the more promotions, the better, because that means more fights for these male and female athletes and competitors. Curious to know a bit more about Samourai MMA, and if you could tell us about them, because I remember when I heard about them, it was kind of like out of nowhere. All of a sudden, I heard about Samourai MMA. And it was, in a way, I thought to myself, oh, this is great, because it's, you know, it's probably going to fill a void that's really needed currently. In addition to that, tell us, you recently signed with Samourai MMA. Tell us about the promotion, and tell us if you know your opponent. Basically, plug away and tell us about the upcoming fight. But give us the history of Samourai MMA, if you know any insider details as to their story.
Yeah. Well, what I know is that, like I said, Daniel is a guy that is a fan. First most is a fan of MMA, and he wanted to put back MMA on the Quebec map and put on some great shows and give the opportunity to the local fighters to fight again. You know, in Quebec, in their hometowns and near the houses. You know, near their families, their friends. So I know, like, the first shows were not easy because, of course, it wasn't COVID and people like maybe lost faith or lost confidence in the Quebec promotion after what TKO did. But the guy, he didn't give up. And I know he probably like maybe lost a couple of bucks in the first shows, but he didn't give up. And he kept working hard and kept signing guys. And the more shows he did, the better the show were. And how can I say, the more professional the show were. And I think his last show, it was Isaac Blais was supposed to fight, but he ended up having food poisoning, unfortunately, the day of the fight. But that being said, I was there with Isaac, and I was really impressed by Daniel and by everyone there, like the Samourai promotion crew. I thought, like, wow, it's really great, and it made me like want to fight for them, like because I
Wow.
was okay. I was really like, oh, I don't want to fight in Quebec anymore. But then after seeing this, after being part of it, I was like, wow, okay, no, this guy's for real. This guy's a good guy. This guy wants to help fighters first, and he wants to bring fighters to the higher promotions. So I was like, okay, no, it's very good. And then, of course, I was offered the fight May 26th in Gatineau, so I couldn't say no. But the fact that he knows that I'm a hometown guy, my last win, like I said, it's November 2017, and he still offered me to be on the either main event or co-main event. So I think that he believes in me, and this is what you want for a promoter. There's a lot of promoters that they don't give a thing about you. Like they're like, oh, this guy, just want him to sell tickets, and I don't care. But no, this guy actually cares, and he always wanted me to be like good. Hey, are you good with this, with that? We talk to each other every day, and I think he's a very cool human being, and he's very good for the sport, and he does something that not a lot of promoters does. He puts himself in the feet of the fighters. And there's a lot of promoters that don't do this. So he's really understanding on a lot of things, and he's really there to help, and you can really have good discussion with him. He's always open to discuss, always open to like listen to feedbacks, give his feedbacks. So I think it's the best way that we can do good shows, and I was really happy. I only like for now it's only a one fight deal, but I'm really really happy, and for sure like I want to see myself like doing further fights for Samourai, because right now I'm really really impressed by them.
That sounds very positive. It's interesting when you speak of promoters, like, because I guess traditionally promoters are, when we think of Don King, remember the boxing promoter, Don King, hell, even on a Vince McMahon, the promoter, people have different reactions when you mention promoters. And I think to some extent they're vilified, they're seen as, the bad guy, because X, Y, and Z. And, there's probably some truth to that. I don't know. But it's good to hear that this promoter is, as you said, really leaning in on the best interest of the fighters. And if he's a fan, I think it's obviously it adds value overall. I know we've been talking for quite some time, but I have a couple of more questions. If you don't mind, you let me know if you're cool on time or not. Recently, we found out that it was announced, I should say, that there was a big major merger between the UFC and the WWE under the lead of Endeavor, that currently owns the UFC brand, and now they own both brands. What was your initial reaction, real quick, to the news that the UFC and the WWE essentially are going to be under the same banner or the same company sorts?
Well, I think they've already been doing like some crossovers, some UFC guy go there, only Brock Lesnar and CM Punk, but I think it's just gonna be good for the both of them. I think it opens some more possibilities, and I think that it can be good for the sport. Like the only thing, I don't want it to become a circus freak show, but I don't think they would do that. I think there's a reason why they did this. I think they have some good things in store. I think we're gonna see some great things about it. I really do, honestly. I really do. They're gonna do some great crossovers, and I think there's some good to do, because WWE been there for many years, and they've been at it, and it works a lot. So I think it's gonna be great. I was surprised, but I think it's gonna be great.
Yeah, no, I agree with you and your optimistic perspective on it. Absolutely. What are your thoughts in terms of fighting internationally? Like, as the idea, because right now Aries MMA, I'm actually, it's on the TV over here. I don't know if you obviously can't see it, but it's in the background. It's on Fight Pass, and I was tuning in a bit just before this interview here. This is my first time actually watching a lot of Aries, and I was like, man, I can't believe. As I was telling you, I think via text message, I was saying, like the best thing that's happened to European professional MMA is the legalization of the sport in France.
Yeah.
I think this has opened major opportunities. It's legal in other parts of Europe, pardon me, but on the amateur and professional side, I think it's incredible, just the level of talent. What are your thoughts on, obviously, as an MMA fighter, the going to assume that the ideal promotion is the UFC, and obviously you're signed to Samourai MMA, and you're fighting in Quebec and in your hometown in Gatineau shortly, which is incredible as well.
Yeah.
Would you entertain the idea of fighting for a brand like Aries, or I think you mentioned even one championship?
Yeah.
Has that crossed your mind and so on?
For sure. Like, honestly, like, I always wanted to fight in Europe. I would do it 100%. I think Aries is a great promotion. There's some good talents in France, very good talents. Damien Lapillus, one of the two guys who beat me, is now a champ at Aries. So no, I really do think it's great. I think it's so good for the sport that it's finally legal in France. It's been a while. I know they worked hard, but it's legal. Cyril Gane comes from France. There's so much talent in France that we didn't get to see yet. So I think with Aries, it's just going to bring up some more talents, and also some more talents from elsewhere. Because we know in Europe we have Cage Warriors. Now we have Aries, we have KSW, and we have Ryzen that does in Russia and also in Asia. But for sure it's gonna be like, I think it's just good. It's just good for everyone, because it creates some opportunities also for Canadian and US fighters to go fight there. And it just, it's a worldwide sport. So we need to be everywhere like that. And especially like in France, like, it was illegal for so many years, and look how the UFC just went in October, and was a major success. And they're gonna go back, I think, the next fall. So I'm actually, I want to go probably to the next UFC Paris to see. So I might get tickets. But I think it's amazing that now it's legal. It's amazing that Aries, they're doing shows like every month. I think they've really been doing great shows too. And I do believe that it's just going to be good for the sport, and just going to bring some more stars to the sport too.
Absolutely. Yeah, they've tapped into a huge market, lots of talent and potential there in France, both on the amateur and on the professional side. Speaking of which, I'm curious to know, what's it like, and I know I've asked you this in the past, but I feel I still need to ask you again, and you've mentioned it too, what's it like training under Sifu Patrick Marcil and the Patenaude Martial Arts in Gatineau? Tell us some of the athletes there and whom we should be watching for. I think you've mentioned a few, but if you don't mind quickly just telling us.
Not at all. I think it's honestly, it's the best. Sifu is the best in the game. He really knows what he's doing. He has a mentality like not a lot of people has, and he helps. Like we were talking, he helps so many people, not only on the fighting side, but also on the mental and emotional side. He's really a kind person. Like, I mean, always there to help, and he never asks nothing in return. So I'm really lucky and grateful to have him as my coach and be still working with him 15 years later. Same thing as Martin Patenaude. And if I can say, like, my teammates, I have some amazing teammates that are up and comers. I can say 3 of them. Sorry, I'm just gonna. Okay. So I can say 3 of them. 3 of them right now is that we have Isaac Blais, who's 2-0, and for sure he didn't fight for 4 years, but when he's gonna make his return, I think you need to really check that guy. Like, you really need to look that guy up. Is Isaac Blais, 2-0, and he's gonna be way more. For sure, he's gonna make it to the UFC or something like that one day. There's also Alain Majoric. Alain Majoric, he's a little bit older. I think he's 33, 34, but he's making his pro debut. He's a dedicated man. He's an amazing athlete. He's an amazing fighter. He's undefeated as an amateur. He's Fight Quest bantamweight champion. And I think you need to look. That guy is going to make his pro debut May 26th. And watch out for this guy, because he has bombs in his hands. He has an amazing ground game, and he's not scared of anyone. anyone, even though he's not that big as me, always goes super hard when we spar together, and he's a great training partner. I really like to train with him. And also my heavyweight, my good friend Pierre Patry, he's been my good friend for the past 10 years, and in and outside the gym, very a good, kind guy. And he's also an amazing athlete, and he's supposed to make his pro debut May 26th at heavyweight. He's a strong guy, 6'4". He's a good training partner for me too. Need to be careful not to get injured with him, because he like I said, he's big and strong. But we will always train together. I just like I was saying, I just did a workout and it was with him, and yeah, we always push ourselves very good. So I think Alain, Pierre, and Isaac are the three guys you need to look up for. And we also have a guy, he's not pro yet, but his name is Jacob Loriot. He's 14 years old, but he does the pro training, and this guy's gonna be a beast too, for sure. Like, he's gonna be really a beast, and he wants to do pro fights and everything. So we need to look up for this guy. He's gonna be maybe pro in 4 or 5 years, but this guy has a lot of talent, and he's got all the time ahead of him. So yeah, we need to look forward for those guys.
That's incredible, and I'm happy to hear that Pierre is still in the game and fighting. Because I remember seeing him fight years ago, and I was like, man, this guy's huge. And at the time, I think he was only he was in light heavy, 205. So
and he was 20 years old, 22.
Yeah. So it's incredible that he's still in this and training, and he's moved on to heavyweight. Alain Marjoric, I've obviously heard of him. Are you going to do the Suits Are Off podcast?
I'm supposed to do it. Actually, I was supposed to do it Tuesday, but something happened, and for Alain, so we're supposed to do it Sunday night.
Okay, awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing that interview. I've been following some of those. I've been watching some of those interviews. They're actually quite. They're great. They're great. They're entertaining. Nice. And of course, Isaac Blay. Yeah, he's. I just dropped my pen. Anyways, he's incredible, and it's too bad that he had that food poisoning incident. I think many people were looking for, myself included, to see.
And it was a bad one. Like, honestly, I would not let him fight. Like, he was just puking for all day, and he was like green. So I was like, sorry, this guy keeps calling me.
All good. He
doesn't understand if I don't answer, and I put him on hold. It's because I'm busy.
It's all good, man. It's all good. You know what? I really appreciate your patience. If you don't mind, I have 2 last questions for you. I know we're going over over an hour, but if you don't realize this, but by now, I'm really enjoying this conversation. I think
me too, my friend.
You should get your own podcast. You should do a podcast, bro, because you're a great communicator and you got a lot of stories, and it's something to explore. If you could change one thing in your career, and I mean anything, what would it be and why?
Maybe being more selfish and listening more to myself. What I want to say by selfish, I like I said, I was the kind of guy that was always going to help this guy in Montreal, this guy in Toronto, this guy there, that. But it's like I was forgetting myself a little bit and kind of not listening enough to my body, because I was hard on my body, like a couple injuries, and a couple things that could have went the other way. So I think that being more selfish, listening more to my body, and the other thing too, like I said, I would have never left Gatineau and left my coaches, because like I think it's so much important to have them with me and to train with them and to learn from them. But maybe when I went to try, like in 2018, the hard knocks, like I was saying, maybe just I could have went a little bit earlier, do sometimes like a week or 2 to train there and just get into it. Because in those kind of gyms, like in those big gyms, they have a lot of good contacts too, and maybe I don't know, maybe it could have opened more doors or made things different. But like at the end of the day, like I said, I would never move there for good. My coaches here will always be my coaches, and they're amazing, and I still learn every day with them, and I'm grateful to have them. But just maybe creating more opportunities by maybe going sometimes, like I said, 1 week or 2 weeks there, just intense training, then you come back, test yourself, instead of just driving to Montreal all the time. I don't know, but it's not regrets, it's just realizations. But like the biggest thing is being more selfish, listening more to my body, not overtrain. overtraining has always been one of my big mistakes. And now with maturity, I'm better at it. I listen more to my body, and
For sure.
I'm more confident to take a day off.
For sure. No, excellent points. I mean, if anyone's watching this and looking for advice and pointers, you've certainly given some really good ones there. Quickly, if I can follow up, what's the biggest misconception fight fans, the media, and others might have regarding the sport and its athletes? What's that one thing that really annoys you, I guess, when it comes to fight fans like myself, the media, and others?
I think honestly, like we were talking, like when somebody lose doesn't mean he's not good, doesn't mean you have to drop him. Like everyone can have a bad day at work or a bad
Sure.
day like in the life, but in fighters, if you have your bad day on the fight day, like unfortunately it's done, you lose. And it doesn't mean you're not good, doesn't mean you were not prepared. It was just that night that you didn't show up, and it happens to everyone. So I just think that the fans or people needs to support more the fighters even when they lose, because at the end of the day, we give everything we have for 2-3 months before the fight, make a lot of sacrifice, and sometimes like we're only two fighting, right? So only one of us can win. And at certain level, the guys are as good, like both guys are as good everywhere. So it's really a game of inches. So I just think that the losers needs to be more supported a little bit. That's what I think, because the winners always, they have great support, and you can see like when people win, they have like 500 likes. When they lose after they announce that they have a fight, or they have 100, 200 likes. I don't do this for the likes at all. That's not, but it's just true. Like people tend to follow, and it's the nature of humankind, but they tend to really like follow the winners, and it's all good. But don't forget that the losers, they worked hard too. They did a lot of sacrifice, and it took a lot of them to go fight there. And another thing, like Israel, and it's not to be cocky that I say this, but another thing people need to realize, that it takes a lot of guts, it takes a lot of courage to go fight in the cage. Not a lot of people would do it. So always remember this.
Excellent point. Last question for you.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to any young fighter who is just starting out in their MMA career and who's probably facing some challenges that you've described? Basically, what's the best advice you give to any emerging fighter, someone who's an amateur looking to take it to that next level? What sort of advice would you give them?
I think you need, first of all, to have good coaches that will be confident that that you can go test yourself somewhere else sometimes, because it's good to go test yourself sometimes. It's good to have an open mind. I don't mean to have 10 coach, not what I mean, but it's good to have an open mind. Some people are like, oh, the only good way is with me, but that's not true. Like there's always, like, you can always learn from some things there. Like I don't say that go and train everywhere, but I mean, just have an open mind, be ready to learn. Don't think that you already know everything. And if it's bad, just keep doing. Try to see what's happening. Try to see what you can like focus on for the good, but just keep working hard. Like this sport, if you don't work hard, you'll never go nowhere. For sure, it takes a little bit of luck too, a good timing, but it takes a lot of hard work. So with hard work comes winning. I'm telling you guys, you need to work hard. You need to work, like the guys now, they start at, like we were saying, 3, 4 years old, 5 years old. There's a guy that working harder in Europe. There's a guys that working harder than you and US. Always think like that. But listen to your body. Don't overtrain. Be careful of the injuries, because it's a sport that's hard on the body. But with hard work and good work mentally, you can go very, very far. And like I said, we're all the same humans. We are all humans. So everyone can do it. If I can do it, if you can do it, so can I, Right. If you can do it, so can I. So just be confident, work hard, and be aware of, the don't want to say the snakes in the game, but be aware, like know your worth. Absolutely. Know your worth, and don't be afraid to say what you're worth.
Man, this has been an incredible interview, man. I really appreciate the time and all your answers and input and insight and perspective on all this. Thank you very much. I want to wish
Thanks
you
to
all
you,
the
my
best.
friend.
I thank you. Yeah, no, you're very welcome, man. It's been many years since we've spoken, and I want to wish you all the best in your when you make your return here in Gatineau when you fight at Samourai MMA. Please let us know, where can we follow you on social media,
Yeah.
and so on, if people are interested in getting tickets and so on, and if you have any sponsors you want to tell us about, of course.
Thank you, my friend. Thanks to you. Always a pleasure to talk with you. It was a great interview, a great chat. And so if you guys want to come see me, May 26th, it's at Slush Puppy Center in Gatineau. It's a new arena, brand new arena. It's an amazing arena. It's going to be an amazing show. May 26th, it's a Friday. I have tickets. Just contact me on Instagram or Facebook. So my Instagram is Leblanc MMA, Leblanc MMA. My Facebook is Julien Leblanc. So J-U Leblanc. So Julien Leblanc. I've got to act my other Facebook a couple years ago. So unfortunately now it's Julien Leblanc. And my sponsors, thank you so much. Without you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. Honestly, I'm forever grateful. I have one of my best sponsors, my major sponsors. So I have Le Centre Santé et Beauté Oasis and all les Hautes-Plaines. Go see them. They're very good. I have also La Shop à Plancher. I have Habitel Inc. It's if you guys need any renovation in your home, your garage, anything. Guillaume Martel, one of my best friends. Habitel Inc. They're the best in the renovation. I have Silva Construction. He's doing houses built from scratch. He's amazing. I have Vitrerie Pierre Latreille. I have also Luxury Exteriors. The guys are doing always the exteriors of the house, and they're very good at it. I have also Kel Credit. I have the Groupe Cadry d'Argam. So the guys from Buckingham, they own Hyundai and Buckingham. They own Chrysler and Buckingham, and they own Toyota. If you need any vehicle, go see them, please. They're the best at it. I also have Durand et Fils Excavation. So if you need any excavation job, please contact them. They are very good. I have Shop Santé. If you need any health product, supplement product for training, go see them. Shop Santé. They are located in Gatineau and Elmer. I don't want to forget anyone. I'm sorry if I forgot some. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. I always also have Pascal Landry, Courtier Immobilier Remax. Like I said, I don't want to forget anyone. I'll give another shout out for them with my list, but I think that makes the most of it. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for your time, my friend. Thanks to my sponsors. Thanks to everyone that will support the show. You know, a lot of people have been asking me when's going to be a professional MMA fight at the new arena, when we don't have enough in Gatineau region, Gatineau, Ottawa region. Well, now we have one May 26th. So if you guys want that we have some more, we need your support, because without the fans, we cannot do shows. So thank you very much, everyone. Thanks to you. And I wish you all.
Well said. Thank you very much for your time, man. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, my friend.